Okay, so here I am in Sublime Text, and I'm looking at the file named responsive before.html, which is located in the examples lecture 24 folder. First, we're going to style a paragraph tag because we're going to use it as our visual kind of anchor to see where the elements fall. And basically, I'm just giving it some background color, some border, and giving it a specific height of 150 pixels. And I'm giving it a width of 90 pixels kind of to simulate some padding. So it's not going to take up the entire cell in our grid. It's going to take up 90% of it. And here, actually, I'm using this little trick to center our paragraph tag inside a block level element, which is going to be a div. And the way to center it is to make sure the width is specified and then to give it margin right outer and margin left outer. Okay, so here comes our framework, our responsive framework we're going to code up. It's going to be pretty simple, but pretty effective as well. So here, first we define our row, and all that is just saying that it's going to be 100% of wherever you put the row is going to try to take up 100% of that space. And then we're going to start having some media queries. So the first one is min width is 1200 pixels, which means that if the display, the device display, is larger than 1200 pixels, all these styles will apply. And notice that what we're doing is we're defining these columns and we are marking them with LG for large, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And what we're saying is every single column, they should float left. So basically we're going to have a float-based layout. I also gave each one of them a border, but that's just so we could see it on the screen. And then what I'm doing is pretty simple and something that I've described before. And what I'm doing is I'm just saying, okay, so if it's a 12-column layout, that means each column is 100% divided by 12. So that becomes 8.33%. Well, the 2 columns is 100 divided by 12 times 2, and that's 16.66%. And so on until we get to column large 12, and that's going to take up 100% of the entire grid. And these are the styles that we've defined for large screen devices. Now, what about medium screen devices? What we're going to do is we're going to have a range. And I picked the lower part of the range to be 950 pixels, which is not exactly the standard. Twitter Bootstrap has a different number that it uses, but I just picked this for demo purposes because I'm going to need it to demonstrate something for you, and you'll see that in a minute. And again, I'm listing all these classes, and again, they're going to be left, floating left, and again, I'm giving him a border. And this time, I'm doing the same thing, except I am now calling this MD for medium. And since these classes don't really exist outside of these media queries, it means that I could specify for different devices different layouts depending on device size. So I could, for a smaller device, for example, specify layout expressed in MD and medium devices columns or medium devices classes. And for a larger device, I could express the same thing with LG, larger devices. So I could give the same element 2 different classes, and I know I'm guaranteed that only one of them will apply at a time since my media queries don't overlap. So both classes will never really be existing at the same time. And I could define more of these media queries, but for demonstration purposes, let's stop here and let's take a look at our HTML. Well, again, we have our H1 just to announce to the world what we're trying to do. And here we have one single row. And a single row contains 8 divs. It contains 8 items, 8 divs. Each one has a paragraph that says item 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 8. And notice the classes that I'm assigning to each one. What I'm trying to tell the browser is that when it is a large device, I want only the classes with LG to apply. And it will happen automatically since the classes with MD don't even exist according to the browser when the browser is larger in width than 1200 pixels. And since I know that floating elements just float to the next line when they can't fit, I could very easily set up 3, 3, 3 and continue to 3. So that's right there, 12 columns, but I can keep going because it's just going to float to the next line. It's 3, 3, 3, and 3 again. So really I should have basically 4 of these things, right? 3, 3, and 3, and 3. That's 4 columns across. However, when the browser size or the device size becomes smaller and it becomes less than 1200 pixels or 1199 pixels and lower, I want the layout to switch to these classes. And these classes are specifying that they should really, each item, each one of these things should take half the screen. So 6 columns plus 6 columns will take up the entire width of the screen. And again, another couple of 6 columns will take the entire width of the screen, and so on. So as I squeeze the browser and make it narrower, I should see that my 4-column layout, which is expressed in these threes, right? It's a little confusing, but it's 3 columns and there's 12 columns altogether, so you have 4 columns across. So my 4-column layout, as I squeeze the browser and make it narrower, should become a 2-column layout because I'm now specifying in a smaller device size 6 and 6 instead of 3, 3, and 3. Now, when the browser size gets to less than 950 pixels, none of these classes will exist as far as the browser will concern. And what's going to happen then? Well, our divs will no longer be floated because the floating is only defined inside the media queries, which means they will behave just like regular block level elements, and they will automatically stack one on top of the other. So as the device size gets smaller and smaller, I should really have one column with each one of these items stacked one on top of the other. And the truth be told, I could have specified that media query for that size of the device, but since in this case, it's just a demo, and I knew that the items will stack anyway, I just left it alone this way. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like in the browser. Okay, so here's our 3, 3, 3, and 3 layout, which gives us 4 items across, and it's just spilling over to the next line and gives us another 4 items across again. And notice if I squeeze the browser, in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to open Chrome Developer Tools. So as I squeeze in this corner right here, you'll see the pixel size of the viewport. And as I start squeezing the browser, you see it jumps to 2. Right? As it gets closer and closer to 1200, once it gets past 1200 pixels, right, it becomes now 6 and 6 column layout, which means that now we're taking up half the space of the entire width of the browser. And if we squeeze it past 950, let's take a look and squeeze it past 950 pixels, right here, boom, the items are now stacking one on top of the other. And obviously as I pull it back apart or pull it wider, it becomes back to our 3, 3, and 3 layout, 3, 3, 3, and 3 layout 4 times, and now we have 4-column layout across. So that's pretty cool. So it seems we're done, and we could now serve this website to regular mobile phones. So let's take a look at what this site looks like on an iPhone 6, and I'll go ahead and record the screen of it. Okay, so here I am on my phone, and I'm serving up the website using this tool called Browser Sync. And we're going to talk more about this tool when we get to the development of a real restaurant website just in a few lectures. But for now, bear with me, and you could barely see here, so let me zoom in here, right here. Responsive before the HTML, I'll go ahead and click that. And here we go. So here we have our website. But something's really strange. I thought if we go on a mobile site, that's a pretty small device, we wouldn't have 2 columns, we would have 1 column because it's such a small device. It seemed to have worked in our browser. Why isn't it working on the phone? Well, let's go back to the browser and investigate this a little bit. So let's go ahead and investigate this, and we're going to use Chrome Developer Tools to do that. And if you look at Chrome Developer Tools here, you'll see a little mobile phone looking like icon, and if you click that, it'll give you basically the layout that we've seen before when we investigated media queries. And right now it's set to some laptop device. So we're going to go and switch that to iPhone 6. And when we switch to iPhone 6, it tells us that we should reload. Let's go ahead and do that. And now that we reloaded, our iPhone simulator device is showing us exactly the same thing as the real iPhone was showing us before. Let's take a look at one of these elements that was supposed to take up the entire screen and for some reason is only taking up half. Let's go ahead and take a look at its box model sizing. So let's take a look here. This div right here is saying that it is 480 pixels wide. And that's really impossible because the screen itself is only 375 pixels wide. So what's going on here? Well, Chrome Developer Tools is actually giving us a hint as to what's going on here. Take a look at the right side of the screen. It's showing you the zooming level of the phone simulator. What it's telling you is that it's only 40% of its 100% zoom. It basically just means the phone zoomed out. And this is really a default feature on all the phones. They try to zoom out on websites that don't tell them to do anything different so they could try to fit the entire content into the viewport of the phone. So how do we tell the phone's browser that, no, this is actually a responsive website and you don't need to try to zoom out, just stay at the regular zoom level? Well, the way we do that is by specifying a special meta tag. Let's go ahead and switch to our code editor again, and we'll go all the way to the top, and we'll place one more meta tag here. And the name of this meta tag is called viewport. And what we need to tell it is that the content of our viewport is, first of all, consider its width to be device width. Don't try to zoom out. And also its initial scale to be 1. And we'll close the meta tag. So now, with this meta tag in place, the browser will consider the device width as the width of the viewport. And its initial scale factor will be 1, meaning it won't scale anything up or down. And now let's go ahead and switch back to the browser, and you see that now it switched to being 1 column. Just for fun, let's go ahead and try it out on a real phone and see if it worked. Okay, so here we are again. We're trying to serve up this responsive before the HTML. Let's go ahead and click on it. And sure enough, we could see that it worked. It now is only 1 column, and we could scroll up and down, and it is indeed 1 column layout now. So in summary, we went over the idea and the need of responsive design. And we talked about the 12-column grid layout, which is the most common and most convenient grid layout there is out there right now. And we spoke about the fact that in order to achieve fluid width, we actually use percentages to specify the width of each column and different items within the columns as well. And we also spoke about the fact that we needed to tell the devices out there that they should not try to zoom out and try to fit all the contents they can. Instead, they should behave as they are, mobile devices with more narrow screens and smaller screens. And the way we tell those devices all this information is by using this meta tag, the viewport meta tag. Next, we're going to start getting introduced to the Twitter Bootstrap framework.